I'm Kelsey. This is my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I'm wearing one of my fancy booktube hats, and today I'm bringing you my TBR for the 2018 Booktube-A-Thon. Booktube-A-Thon is, of course, the biggest annual readathon on Booktube, and I am here, as always, because of peer pressure. Booktube-A-Thon is madness. Booktube-A-Thon is nuts. The ultimate goal is to read 7 books in 7 days. There are 7 reading challenges, there are daily video challenges, there are Instagram challenges, there are reading sprints, you name it. This year, it will be running from July 30th through August 5th. It will be hosted, as always, by Ariel Bissett from the Readathon's own social media. It has its own YouTube account and Twitter account. I will link both of those down below, along with the 2 videos for the announcement of this year's readathon and the announcement of the reading challenges. Now, I keep a special shelf of, like, small, easy-to-read looking books that I have on hand for readathons like this. And those include, like, novellas, children's classics, middle grade, rereads of things from my childhood I want to revisit, and otherwise just really generally short books that I think will be quick to read. And so most of these books are from that sort of collection of potential readathon books I keep on hand. So I have a book per challenge. One is to let a coin toss pick your first read. So what I have here is 2 books, both of which are on my TBR, but whichever one is wins the coin toss is going to be the first book I read, and that I can therefore pretty much guarantee you that I will definitely complete during the week. And the book that loses the coin toss is going to be the last book that I get to. That's my extra 7th book for the final reading challenge, which is just to read 7 books. And so you can guess there will be a significant chance that I won't actually get to whichever book loses this coin toss during the week of the Booktube-A-Thon. Now, the first book is going to be The Changeling Sea by Patricia A. McKillip. This is itty bitty, and it is a mass market paperback with, like, really small print, so this might actually be a bit of a longer book than it looks like, but it looks absolutely minuscule. I know that this one is published as YA, which most of McKillip's books are not. I don't know if that is because this is actually more of a YA book than her other novels, or if it's just because that's what publisher wanted to publish it. Anyways, I think it will be a quick read, and it's one of the books that was on my readathon shelf that I was most anticipating getting to at some point. And then the second book is going to be the only book on this list that I have out from the library that is not a book I own, and it's also the only graphic novel on this list. It is Hilda and the Bird Parade by Luke Pearson, which is the 3rd book in the Hilda graphic novel series, which follows this little girl named Hilda on her whimsical, wild, magical adventures. I really liked the first 2. I think they are just charming and adorable. So The Changeling Sea is going to be heads, Hilda and the Bird Parade is going to be tails. I have a penny here, and I'm going to try to do the coin toss in an enclosed space here so I don't lose the coin. Heads. It is heads. So the first book I'm going to be reading is The Changeling Sea by Patricia A. McKillip. Challenge number 2 is read a book about something you want to do. I am going to be reading for this challenge The Dragon with a Chocolate Heart by Stephanie Burgis, which is a short little middle grade book. I believe this has a good deal to do with chocolate, and I want to eat chocolate. That's about as straightforward as I think it gets. My understanding is that this is about a young dragon who gets transformed into a human girl and then becomes a chocolatier's apprentice. Challenge number 3 is to read and watch a book-to-movie adaptation, and for me this was an opportunity to get in one of those children's classic rereads that I haven't visited since childhood, and this is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. I was not really an Oz fan as a kid. I know that this is obviously an edition that belonged to one of my parents. It's old, and it has lovely color illustrations, so there's less text per page in general than it would look like from the chunkiness of the book, just based on how much of it is illustrations. But I think one of my parents read this to me as a kid, like before I was old enough to be reading by myself. So that was when I was really, really young. And I think we read through the first few books in the Oz series, and it just wasn't my thing. And I know I saw the movie again once as a kid, and I don't think I ever saw it more than once. So I think it is time for me to figure out The Wizard of Oz, both book and movie, through the eyes of a grown-up. Number 4 is read a book with green on the cover. For this, I've picked Witches of Lychford by Paul Cornell. This is the first book in an urban fantasy series that is a novella series from the Tor.com novella line. I've heard really great things about it. This ended up on a TBR of mine months and months ago, and I never got to it, so it's been sort of sitting around ever since. As you can tell, it sort of fades from being greener on the bottom to browner on the top, but overall the whole look of this cover is a very nice olive greenish color. And number 5 is the challenge that was maybe made for me. At least that was my first reaction upon hearing about this challenge, because this challenge is to read a book while wearing the same hat the entire time. As you undoubtedly have noticed, hats on Booktube are kind of my entire gimmick. So after my initial elation at hearing this challenge that's obviously meant for me, then I started to feel a little grumpy, like now everyone else on Booktube is doing hats too? This was my thing. Mine! But that is selfish. The book I have picked for this challenge is Nurk, The Strange Surprising Adventures of a Somewhat Brave Shrew by Ursula Vernon, which is one of her titles for children. It is short. I know it takes place in the same world universe as Digger, and there might be some crossover elements, and it is also significantly illustrated. I suppose I absolutely must choose one of my fancy Booktube hats for this challenge. I have many other hats that are like unfancy enough to wear out and about in the real world. The fancy Booktube hats tend to stay at home. So the hat that I have chosen for reading this book with is going to be this one that I am wearing right now, because I think the color scheme is the best with the cover of this book. That is my choice. That is what I am going with. I kept thinking for a while, is there a way for me to like up the ante on this challenge? Like, because me just sitting around in a hat reading a book that isn't abnormal for me. I think the fact that my hats are pretty dang fancy to begin with, if I'm going with one of my fancy Booktube hats, I think that's enough. I think that's what I'm going with. Challenge number 6 is to read a book with a beautiful spine. Because I'm reading all very short books for this readathon on purpose, it was hard to find one with a really good spine. I have chosen one where the spine isn't necessarily very unique, because all of these editions in this series and extended series basically have the same spines. Not all of the copies of books in the Tortall universe series that I own are these editions. Some of them are. These are the spines. I don't know how well you can see that. They're kind of ornate, but also very kind of clean and classic. They do look really great if you have all of the books in these same editions and line them up. I don't. Mine are of mixed editions. Oops. But that is not the point. The point is to read a book with a nice spine, and this is In the Hand of the Goddess by Tamora Pierce, which is the second book in the Song of the Lioness Quartet, which I mean to complete this calendar year. And then the 7th challenge is to read 7 books, and so you've already seen this one, Hilda and the Bird Parade, if I should be so lucky as to get to it. So that is my TBR. Those are the books that I'm planning on reading. This is totally nuts. Are you prepared for the Booktube-A-Thon? I am not prepared for the Booktube-A-Thon. Anyhow, let me know if you're participating. Let me know if you have thoughts on any of these books. I hope you're having a nice day. That is all. Bye for now.